Okay.
Are you guys ready?
I guess.
Well, don't forget to press that highlight button or something.
Don't forget to smash that like button.
This fanfiction is called Morphball Malfunction.
Wait, hold on. Now you can start. Man!
Okay, this fanfiction is called Morphball Malfunction by Tiffy B. Summary. Samus gets stuck as a morph ball at the end of a tunnel. Luckily, some pirates discover her just as the emergency protocols disengage a portion of her suit. With her rear fully exposed, the pirates use the blonde futanari bounty hunter as they see fit.
Oh my god.
Samus' eyes twitched with a mix of rage and anxiety as she stared in disbelief of her power suit's display. She was currently in the heart of one of the largest pirate frigates in the galaxy, on a mission to disrupt the operations of the vile and marauding villains, and yet the blonde bounty hunter was partially stuck in the outgoing chute of a network of tubes that brought her to a room that appeared to be the size of a closet with nothing else in it. Worst of all, the tunnel Samus had passed through contained some kind of energy-sapping technology, putting her suit on the verge of shutting down. The tube's exit was steep enough to stop her from returning the way she came. Never mind that her suit didn't have nearly enough energy to attempt the trip, even if she wanted. Instead, she was rooted in place, unable to escape her plight as the suit's energy levels plummet. It felt like she had been waiting for hours for something to happen. The blonde had nearly dozed off when she heard a sudden beeping noise. Samus sighed with dismay as she watched the energy level of the suit go critical. Even creating an energy bomb would be too risky at this point. The screen in front of her gently thrummed with a yellow glow, signaling the auxiliary power had been activated and she needed to recharge as quickly as possible. "Yeah, I'd love to," she murmured sarcastically to herself while her constricted joints cramped from holding the same position for so long. She growled again as the next bar of energy vanished. The closet door slid open and a befuddled pirate stopped in his tracks as he stared at the gleaming, metallic orange sphere protruding halfway out of the wall. Those colors struck fear in all evildoers, so the pirate's alarm was more than justified. He stumbled backward, nearly falling down as he tried to get as far away as possible. At the same time, Samus was gripped with the urge to defend herself, but knew there was little she could do at the moment. And then she saw the last bit of auxiliary power cut out. Her display went dark, leaving her completely blind. An alarm that she'd never heard before sounded off, which she assumed was from the lack of oxygen being dispersed through her suit. There were worse ways to die than suffocation, the bounty hunter reasoned, but then she heard a portion of the suit depressurize. There you go. Man. Depressurize. The plates of the suit attempted to jettison since breathable oxygen outside the suit had been detected. There was little cause for concern since she was still half stuck in the end of the tube, but that only meant most of the suit couldn't perform its emergency protocol. Samus felt exposed as a portion of the morph ball came undone and clanged against the floor. Horror and shame flooded the bounty hunter as she tried to comprehend what had just happened. She struggled to breathe as the chilly air from the ship tingled against her pale, milky flesh.
Ew.
Not only was her pussy and ass on full display, with no way to defend herself, but the blonde's What? What the fuck? What? Huh? But the blonde's enormous cock was also entirely exposed as it hung limply against her large balls.
What?
What? Huh? She has a penis, but also a pussy.
Okay, now you're going out to Talon 4.
Huh? What?
Okay.
Oh my god, what? Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh my god, now I know what this
Go
is.
to Talon Man.
Oh no. What did I choose?
You chose this.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't pay attention actually. Okay. Okay, Samus has a pussy and large balls and a cock. Remember this, Dario. She wanted to scream in terror and disgust over a situation, like I am right now. It wasn't embarrassing enough that the galaxy's most renowned bounty hunter was stuck in the wall with no way to free herself. But now she was utterly humiliated by exposing her unprotected crotch to some random pirate. It was a long and awkward silence before she felt the alien's fingers dig into the soft flesh of her ass. The gropes were delicate and tentative at first, but they quickly grew more bold and rough as both hands cupped the bounty hunter's generous assets. Samus was appalled that a space pirate would dare to touch her. Didn't this trash know that she could easily take him out with the slightest bit of effort? She let out a sudden yelp of surprise as something hard and wet rubbed against her exposed pussy. There was no way this pirate would be so greedy, right? She shivered and took a deep breath as the head of her assailant's dick prodded against the moisturizing lips of her pussy. Slowly, the average-sized dick plunged into her until the pirate's hips bounced against her plush rear. The sensation wasn't quite so great for the blonde since she wasn't nearly wet enough for the alien's cock to shove into her so forcefully. The pirate wasn't dissuaded in the least, as he gripped the grooves in the side of the Morphball for leverage and plowed into Samus' cunt. Each impact caused her round ass to jiggle and her limp prick to bounce around. The pirate groaned in blissful euphoria as he feverishly pounded the blonde's pussy with reckless abandon. The sensation of his cock in a Terran woman's cunt was amazing, but knowing he was balls deep in Samus' run made it that much better.
Actually, get lila, Dario.
I need to wash my mouth with this tea.
Oh, ball guy, into the ball. This will open the path, I think.
The bounty hunter was still in shock as she was fucked so mercilessly. The pirate's growls of pleasure echoed in the tiny room as he thrust into her. Samus winced in disgust. She could hardly believe this filthy alien scum had managed to turn her on so easily. It was only because it had been so long since she had relieved that itch, though. The blonde was a busy woman that would tend to that sort of thing when she wasn't on a mission. She certainly didn't enjoy what this pirate was doing to her, though. Her toes wiggled and clenched while her ankles were behind her head. Her worst fear became more of a reality as a climax rose within her. She held her breath and bit her tongue as she attempted to stave off that wonderful tingling sensation that spread from her core. The pirate let out a feral snarl of pleasure as he haphazardly thrust into her, tilting his throbbing dick into her as gooey spurts of cum splattered against the wall of her vagina. Samus heard the pirate breathing heavily as he pulled out. A little gush of green alien spunk dripped from her pussy and trailed over her asshole. Samus breathed a sigh of relief as her orgasm slowly subsided, although the impending climax had left her cock in a semi-hard state. A little bit of pre-cum was clearly visible at the head. She heard the same swishing noise as the door opened again, and the chilled air from outside caressed her exposed skin once more. It was a brief feeling, which quickly came to an end as the door closed. Then there was silence while Samus dealt with the torturous sensation of alien spunk as it dripped from her pussy over her tight, puckered anus and then trailed down along the crack of her ass before it dribbled out to the ground. The door opened, followed by it quickly closing again. She had been left alone again while she wondered what fate awaited her. The bounty hunter sighed in frustration, only to suddenly feel the head of an alien dick rub against her pussy. Already she could tell this one was much larger. He pushed forward, burying just the head of his hard, unforgiving dick inside her cunt before he pulled back. Samus mentally sighed with relief, knowing that a dick like that would have probably pushed her over the edge. Unfortunately for her, the bulbous head of the new pirate's cock slid a bit lower than it prodded her tight pink asshole. The sensation garnered a grunt from the woman and she fruitlessly squirmed about in her unfortunate bondage. There was no way a dick like this would fit in her ass. The pirate hardly cared though. With the slick head of his cock continually prodding her back door, it finally gained entry while forcing a little squeal of discomfort from the blonde's lips. Her asshole clenched around the head of his member while he continued to press forward, slowly introducing more of his thick length into her anus. The feeling of the ill-prepared dick against her raw asshole wasn't fun in the least. However, the pirate obviously didn't know or care about Sam's well-being, since his hard, chinty alien dick only felt the bounty hunter's warm, fleshy ring of flesh squeezing around him. Sweat dripped from her forehead as she dealt with the pain and anxiety of this encounter. Her eyes widened in shame and surprise as she felt a sudden warm splatter of something in her ass. Samus knew he hadn't come yet though. Even the quickest shot wouldn't have finished that fast. No one truly knew the biology of the space pirates, since they had heavily modified genetics and didn't hail from a single homeworld. While most shared similar traits, it was impossible to tell what alien race was the progenitor and which ones had been molded to the current form. The bounty hunter wasn't thrilled to be able to report her discovery about space pirate cock though, especially as the liquid only made it infinitely easier for the invader to slide his dick deeper into her ass. Samus winced as the cock continued forward. She felt every bump and imperfection of the widening length of dick, especially since none of that alien lubricant had touched her poor, abused rim until the pirate pulled back.
Mario. In the water.
The blonde's eyes fluttered with relief as he did pull back though, even as her assailant's dick slipped all the way out. Her asshole was bright pink and puffy from the abuse she had suffered, but now had a sticky glaze of alien liquid dripping from it. She was brought out of her haze in an instant when the pirate's dick pushed right back against her ass and slid all the way in with a single thrust. An audible grunt echoed through her breached suit and filled the little closet. Just like the previous pirate, this one held her in place by the grooves of the Morphball while he pumped into her ass. Samus had never been more thankful for lubricant in her entire life as her sore asshole was stretched by the pirate's big dick. Each thrust was still somewhat uncomfortable, but the large head bumped against her prostate with every motion. Samus' dick was now rock hard and pointed toward the ceiling while her smooth balls defensively bounced in place. Samus heard the pirate groan before his thrusts increased at a savage, harrowing pace that forced her dick to slap against the cold metal of the Morphball while leaving a little splotch on the shiny metal from her own pre-cum. The blonde wasn't even close to coming, but this ordeal had certainly put her in a different state of mind, even as the pulsing dick in her ass gushed its alien payload. Samus wished these aliens weren't so similar to human males and could keep going. She needed a dick like this to keep pounding her in order to push her over the edge. As the alien pulled out, a messy flood of green spunk gushed from her gaping asshole before she could properly clench her rosy pink anus. Even before she processed all of this humiliation that washed over her, she heard the door open again. There was another gust of cold air against her skin, which she received even more accusingly as the air brushed against her wet pussy and asshole. Shut up, Pia, I'm reading a fanfiction. She groaned in desperation. Her cock was absolutely rigid as it pointed straight up with just the slightest curve to it. A slow drip of pre-cum trailed from the head, only to fall upon her own bald pelvis. Samus still hated the pirates with every fiber of her being, but she wanted to come so badly. She sighed and tried to center her mind. Once she was free of this ridiculous situation, she would carry out her mission and take down every last one of the pirates. The meditation hardly worked, but her insatiable lust was somewhat under control. The door opened and closed again. There was hardly time for her to register that she had company again before the pirate's dick easily slid into her ass. This dick wasn't nearly as long as the previous one, but it was certainly thicker. Her asshole hadn't fully recovered from the previous reaming she had received, so having another cock stretching her puffy pink anus was nearly as fun as she would have liked it to be. Despite the stick being a little shorter, it still bumped right against her prostate though. Any calming effect on her libido that the meditation may have had was nullified as her towering length of Terran dick rose to full mast again. As the pirate plunged into her ass, he also wrapped his rough alien fingers around her cock.
Are you going back?
The hard, unforgiving grip on her big, fleshy dick wasn't ideal, but it was more than enough to send her over the edge as he jogged her off while the broad head of his dick pummeled her prostate. Like this, exactly. What? Samus cried out as her ass clenched around his invading dick. This only made him work harder as he pumped into her spasming rear. Meanwhile, her own dick throbbed in the pirate's chitinous grasp, while her smooth balls tightened within her sack. A desperate cry of orgasmic bliss echoed from within the confines of her Morphball prison, while the thick strands of cum rained down upon what was left of the metallic sphere. The pirate said something to her, which the power suit would have normally translated for her. She could easily infer the meaning of her assailant's word as he sped up all of a sudden. The alien's cock practically vibrated as it pulsed within Samus' ass before she felt more alien jizz batter her prostate one last time. As the pirate pulled out, the blonde had a harder time clenching her ass close to stop the rush of jizz as it flowed out. She definitely felt the cold air against her slightly gaped anus as the door opened and closed. There was no time to catch her breath or wonder when her next visitor would appear when she felt something hard and elastic slide over her head of her dick and down the length until it touched the base. Samus had no idea what was happening, though she wasn't in any danger until she remembered she had experienced the same sensation before. The next visitor, who had apparently been waiting for the last pirate to finish, had placed a cock ring around the base of her dick. In her current state, her arousal kept the blood trapped within her hard member, keeping her perpetually erect and extremely sensitive. When she adjusted to the sensation, the pirate had already pushed his dick against her cunt and shoved forward. Samus was surprised by just how easily he pumped into her, which only signaled that she had grown extremely aroused since her encounter with the first pirate. The blonde's heart raced as she came down from her orgasmic high, only to regret having been forced to come so easily. She kept telling herself that she wasn't enjoying this. She felt the cruel grip of the alien's hand on her sensitive dick. There was no motion in his wrist as he held her, though. Instead, the pirate merely used her throbbing hardcore as a handle as he pounded Samus' cunt. Luckily for the bounty hunter, this alien didn't take long to come. His long, narrow cock gushed within her pussy with a surprisingly copious amount of spunk. As he pulled out, there was an unflattering glut of jizz that rushed from her cunt and fell to the floor, while the rest dribbled over and into her winking little asshole.
This is done.
There was a constant queue of pirates that joined her in the closet. Most of them didn't hesitate to thrust themselves into her ass or pussy. Her holes gaped open from the continuous use by such a large number of various alien cocks. No two were ever the same. Some dicks were completely smooth and almost felt like sex toys, while others sported thick veins and bumps that further stimulated her aching rim as they plunged in and out. At some point, another ring was added to her body. This one was securely fastened around her ballsack, leaving her smooth, hairless nuts more exposed and vulnerable than before. Each time an orgasm was forced upon her, the bounty hunter's pulsing titanic dick erupted with cum. The wall, as well as the protruding pieces of the Morphball and her pelvis, were all coated in layers of her sticky, dried cum.
MR Rosemario. X-ray.
Wow. Samus breathed deeply, inhaling her heady, musky stench of sex that permeated the small room in her Morphball. She groaned in distress as she felt the second pirate in a row used her sensitive, overfucked ass. The blonde whimpered as she realized this cock was a thick one too, as her sore, gaping hole still had to stretch to accommodate the length. She felt him thrust a few times, followed by a few choice words that she couldn't comprehend.
It's a blue.
More pre-cum dribbled from her own dick, as this monstrous dick constantly pushed and rubbed against her prostate.
Use X-ray again so we can jump
There were a
through.
few more growling screeches from the pirate, which didn't sound particularly reassuring to the bounty hunter. She didn't have time to care about the alien's satisfaction, since she was sure she was going to come again, any minute now. The blonde nibbled her bottom lip as she relaxed and tried to get some kind of enjoyment from the continuous assault on her body. Just before she felt that euphoric release, there was a heavy, gut-wrenching sensation of the pirate's open hand mercilessly tapping against her bound balls.
X-ray visor in Great Tree Hall. Door located behind tree.
Samus winced as her orgasm was completely forgotten and replaced by a nagging sensation that crept into her stomach. It was such a confusing feeling as her prostate was hammered, but the near constant slaps against her helpless nuts kept her from ever dreaming of achieving orgasm. If not for the ring around the base of her dick, she was certain she wouldn't even be hard at all. After what stretched on forever, Samus hardly even noticed the current pirate as he came in her ass. Her entire attention was devoted to the dull ache that assaulted her whole body while the alien language was screeched and screamed at her. As the pirate pulled out and his cum spit all over the floor, he delivered one last slap to her balls before he left. Samus had never been happier that one of them had finished with her. She just wanted to rest while she recovered from the constant abuse of her red glowing balls. The blonde wondered if they visibly throbbed, considering that certainly felt like they did. Rough, alien fingers squeezed her ass and kneaded her tight, muscled rear. This was the first time any of the pirates had taken their time to examine her. As shocking as the scenario was, it was nothing compared to the sensation of an alien maw pressed against her gaping ass. The blonde audibly gasped while her stretched asshole twitched. She felt what she assumed was the pirate's tongue push against her ass, only to then feel another slip in as well. Both tendril-like appendages slithered around the rim of the bounty hunter's ass, while the alien messily slurped up the mixed remains of cum that still oozed from her hole. Ew. After having her balls assaulted, having her ass eaten was by far the most wonderful follow-up. Samus groaned with regret as she felt the tips of the tongues retreat into the pirate's mouth, though. Ugh.
Ugh. So, what
She
the
fully-
fuck is this?
Mr. Rubiros Mario. Invisible platform.
She fully expected the session to end, but the alien's hand wrapped around her hard, drooling dick. The bounty hunter held her breath since she expected the
Rubiros
absolute
Mario.
worst treatment.
Go down again.
Instead, she was treated to the somewhat confusing sensation of the tip of her cock being rubbed against some sort of malleable, fleshy orifice. Samus groaned as the alien lowered itself onto her dick, treating her to the tight, warm confines of its body. And while she couldn't determine if this pirate was male or female, it hardly mattered since it felt so amazing. Up and down, the alien bounced against Samus' cock. The alien's insides squeezed, undulated, and seemed to have a slight amount of spin as the blonde's dick was treated to a sensation she wouldn't soon forget. Such a new and wonderful encounter was more than enough to send Samus over the edge. Her dick pulsed and her balls tightened as gooey spurts of cum gushed into the pirate. There was a few choicest words yelled at the bounty hunter while the alien still fucked itself with her dick.
Mr. Rubiros Mario. Just looked up with X-ray.
Her assailant didn't seem to climax though, as they pulled themselves off the Terran's dick a short time later with a particularly wet and sloppy noise. Samus hardly cared that the pirate hadn't finished, although she was certainly open to trying again. While the blonde was in joyous reflection of her last orgasm, she soon felt something hard and cold as it pressed against her ass. Despite her futile efforts to stop the alien device from being used on her, it easily slipped inside. Samus groaned as she realized the tapered tip of and the wide, flared base was a butt plug of some sort. While the sudden stretching sensation was intense, it was nothing compared to the pirate's aggressive
Mr.
screams as it
Rubiros
slapped her
Mario.
bound nuts even harder than the previous alien
Where's
had.
the platform? I don't see
Why would a
it.
platform game be without platform?
Because this is Terminal, not Activision.
What?
Using Terminal all the time. That's
This is
Activision.
X-ray. No, this is
Look
actually.
up. To the right. This is a platform there.
Are you
You can only
kidding me?
see in the X-way.
Jesus Christ. Though all of her groans and whines of pain, she was certain she
Now we
was
can
going to
jump
black
there.
out. But then something unexpected happened. A
Ooh,
thick note of
finally.
cum erupted from her throbbing dick, which finally caused the alien to stop its assault. It screeched a few more choice words at the human before it grabbed the base of the plug and unceremoniously yanked it from her ass. Another thick glob of jizz burst from Samus' cock and splattered against the wall before it dripped back onto her Morphball. The bounty hunter breathed heavily as she recovered from the abuse.
Life Grove.
A new alien had apparently entered since she now heard the previous one on the other side of the door. This one was surprisingly simple with its treatment compared to the last few. The pirate shoved his dick up her ass and pounded the widely stretched hole until he added his alien jizz to the rest of the deposits in her body and left without saying a word. The next entrant worried the blonde as she immediately heard them speaking at her, although their voice was more calm than the pirate that had caused her so much pain. Samus winced as the alien's finger poked inside the gaping hole of her ass and lightly circled and stretched her rim. Her ass was still immensely sore at this point, but then she felt a cold gel dribble against her anus. It was a cooling and relaxing sensation, which made it that much more surprising, as she felt the pirate plunge its hand into her ass all at once. It was the first time Samus screamed the whole time, and the first time she understood the pirate's language without a translator. The noise it made was akin to a devious chuckle, which the blonde only barely heard as the alien rotated its fist back and forth inside her balls. Her rim clenched around the alien's hard, bumpy wrist. To add insult to injury, the pirate drizzled the same lubricant on her rock-hard dick before he wrapped his fingers around her length and patiently jerked her off. The way her cock was handled with such love and care was the perfect foil to how the pirate so savagely fisted her ass. Despite being an alien race, this pirate knew a thing or two about human physiology. His hand rotated within her before the tip of his hard, chinchious finger applied a ruthless amount of pressure to her prostate. Samus howled and attempted to squirm in her Morphball prison as ropes of cum were milked from her spasming cock. Her plump, aching balls clenched against her body while more cum surged from her dick. At a certain point, the bounty hunter finally stopped screaming and pleading for mercy, even as her dick continued to pulsate with a constant series of dry orgasms. She cried out again as the pirate finally pulled his fist from her ass, leaving the hole gaping wide for just a moment before the thick, cold metal plug was shoved in place once more. The blonde was almost thankful for the chilly device since it offered some relief to her overused asshole. She tested the plug as she tried to force it out, only to panic as she almost succeeded. Samus wondered if her asshole was feasibly permanently widened, considering such a big toy was now just barely held in place by her loose rim. The blonde was covered in sweat and reeked of cum, both her own and pirates', and her mind was just barely intact. She soon realized this was the longest time she'd spent without being used and abused. It was a sigh of relief from the blonde, but then a sudden realization that her cock and balls were still firmly bound and vulnerable.
Reveal a Morphball spinner by bombing the metal covering in the center of the water pool.
The constant ache of the binding slightly dug into her skin and was more than enough to keep her completely hard, needy, and miserable. Samus softly whined, followed by heavy breaths as she desperately waited for the next pirate to fuck her. The bounty hunter didn't care what they did to her, she just needed someone, anyone, to use her again. The end.
Wow. Amazing.
Man, it was pretty disgusting, to be honest.
Actually, these Metroid fanfictions are always so fucked up.
And it's always Samus that gets like tortured or, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Dario, Samus has a dick and a pussy and a ball.
According to this guy.
When you make the highlight, you should put in the title, Samus has a dick? Question